We do apologize for starting the program a little behind schedule. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Standpoint. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. Now, since 1999, when President Olusegun Obasanjo won the presidential election after years of military rule, the presidency has rotated amongst a class of sect of politicians. One thing Nigerian presidents since 1999 have all had is in common is their age. Though at the time of their elections, the Constitution pegged the age for contesting the presidential election at 40. Nigeria has never had a president younger than 50 years old, bolstered by the passage of #NotTooYoungToRun bill. Many young Nigerians, citing lack of confidence in current political leaders to deliver the nation from perennial economic and infrastructural backwardness, have declared their intention to contest the highest political office in the land, the presidency. I have with me in the studio two of this crop of young Nigerians who are taking the bull by the horn and running for the 2019 presidential election. On the show today, we will be discussing the current push for a new and young generation at the helm of affairs of Nigeria. Adamu Garba is an IT entrepreneur. He is the CEO and founder of IPI Solutions Nigeria Limited, and he is also contesting at the 2019 presidential election against the President Muhammadu Buhari. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And also we have Dr. Daniel Akinlami, is a corruption crusader, also contesting the 2019 presidential seat. You're welcome to the program. Now, I want to start with you, Garba. How has the journey been, seeing that you are contesting against an incumbent, President Muhammadu Buhari? How has the journey been?
It's been quite interesting. We see many people felt like going into APC and contesting primary election with the president is actually a very big deal. You may not have the chances of winning. But I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see, one of the main things that convinced me to join APC is I believe it has a lot of people that have Nigeria at heart. And I began to see that they also love the future of this country. From 1999, as you earlier discussed, President Olusegun Obasanjo, we now have a series of presidents that rule this country. They actually love the country, most of them. They actually care about the future of the country. The problem is that there is a disconnect. They just don't represent the persona that can actually anchor the future of this country.
Is it really about representation? Is the challenge really about representation?
The challenge is about the model of the statecraft that they anchor. Most of them are actually anchoring a statecraft model that is completely outdated, that don't connect to what the global world is now conformable to, which is the supply chain defined. Countries are now ruled by how they organize themselves in the market economy, not just running around trying to provide security and very concrete borders. So this is where we have a very serious disconnect.
And you think that that model will work in Nigeria, looking at how the Nigerian space is?
Absolutely. In fact, Nigeria is a marketplace. From the inception of this country, the founding fathers were handed over a market economy, a very large market, where we have the colonial masters. The main reason why they even focus on Nigeria is because of the market opportunities that are present in Nigeria. Nigeria is not defined by natural borders, so it's more of a market economy. And that is why our plan is to transform the country into the politically polarized units to economically integrated unit. And that's why we're even creating 9 geo-economic zones as opposed to the political zones that we have that is polarizing us and making a lot of people getting confused and getting killed along the way.
All right, let's come to Daniel now. So far, how has the journey been? And what was the motivating force? So you know that, like we were speaking before we came on the air, that the push or the clamor to run for the topmost seat has not been this way. And suddenly we are seeing everyone, young persons, pushing, clamoring for that position.
Well, I think from what is happening in the country at the moment, it's instructive for us to pick the message of the season. The democracy we have is getting to the point where the history is being made. Now, what started as not too young to run is a phenomenon that has never happened in this country since 1999. That you have the highest number of young people aspiring to be the president. Now, not just young people, brilliant, intelligent people aspiring to take Nigeria to the next level. Now, what this represents is the revolution of the mind. What it also represents is the boldness in the younger political space. Now, how did we get here? If the older folks in the established political structures have made good use of the opportunity they had in the past 19 years to turn the country around for good, to provide good infrastructure, and to also have inclusive system that can always turn out younger generation that can take over from them. If they've had a system like this, we won't have got to the point that we are now having the influx of the younger people challenging them to take over the leadership. Now, what we have right now is a kind of revival, a social consciousness in a class of citizens. Perhaps maybe from younger folks from 30 years old upward. They are standing up to be counted. They want to take responsibility for their own future and their children's future. Now, most of us have waited for years to see PDP and APC take this country through the route where we can see a new Nigeria. But we've been waiting forever. Now, we are in the point where we can't continue to fold our hands.
What is your description of a new Nigeria?
Well, a new Nigeria will be a total departure from what we have right now, where corruption is the bane of progress. A new Nigeria will give us leadership that can be accountable. A new Nigeria will give us leaders that will put the people above their own selfish interests. In a new Nigeria, a new nation, leaders will not consider their tribe bigger than the nation. In a new nation, we'll see leaders having the heart for justice, equity, and transparency. And in a nation where there is no justice, where there are first-class citizens, there are second-class citizens, you cannot see progress. In a new Nigeria, Nigerian law must be supreme. Whoever violates Nigerian law must be brought to book. Some people must not be above the law. So in a new Nigeria that we're talking about, you will see people with ideas, people who have things to offer, who are proactive, who can think into the future to take Nigeria to the future, that Nigeria can compete in the Committee of Nations. So, but what we have today is still like we are just getting started. We are miles far away from modern life. We are miles far away from modern democracy.
And you can bring Nigeria back on track, seeing that you are gunning for that position?
What many of us represent in this race, especially myself, is the new breed that can take Nigeria from where we are to that place that every person will be proud of being in Nigeria. And what we are talking about is a country that will truly rise to its status as the giant in Africa. A country that will be reckoned with globally.
How do you intend to achieve that?
We'll be doing that in so many ways. And first, to start with, it's important we must restructure Nigeria.
When you say restructure, you know restructuring means different things to different people.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. If we're going to look at all the issues that we are facing today, is that the power sector, the economy, that refuses to be diversified, despite all the diversification policies that have been shown out over the years. Now, look at the economy first. Part of the problem that we're having is that we have a feeding bottle federalism, where the state governors have to go to Abuja every month to go and collect handouts. Now, for Nigeria economy to truly live to its true potential, we may need to have, in the near future, each region or state having economic autonomy, where they can control certain aspects of their resources, that they can open up the economy at the state level, and then begin to add value to the GDP. Now, if we're also talking about power, there are certain items today that must be taken from the exclusive list, including provisions that will help Nigeria to overcome the power challenges. Some items must be taken from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, that the state government can begin to participate, generate power, and bring ideas into how Nigeria can amass enough power. Because without adequate power, we cannot rise in technology. We cannot rise in manufacturing. And that is an aspect of the economy that has been put at the barest minimum level. So, doing all this, one of the best ways for us to move forward is first restructuring. Okay. But when we have a restructured nation where the states are given more responsibilities, you could remember what happened in Lagos with the power project early 2000, when former governor embarked on that independent power project, and how the politics choked that process. So until we have a restructured constitution that will empower the state to step into these areas, I can tell you, if the state starts generating power, investing in the power sector, the burden, the bulk of this problem that is on the head of the federal government, that the federal government neck is pressing down, almost shocking to life, will be removed. Right. The space will be opened. And meanwhile, that does not actually mean that the interest, the businesses of the GENCOs and the DISCOs will be affected. But we can open the space so that there can be more opportunity.
We need to bring him in now. Are you also a believer of the restructuring agenda? And is that the line you intend to achieve an economically integrated country?
Yes, of course, naturally, there are some factors you may consider in place. Like restructuring is a natural thing that's supposed to happen in a country. Natural? Yes, it's a natural thing. You know, it's not something that I don't even understand why. I don't even understand why it's a political hype. For everyone who is determined to making the greatness out of this country, you must have to restructure. There are some level of responsibility that have to come down to the local, because politics is local, security is local, so all those kind of things, you have to integrate the local community. And I believe that the center should just focus on key areas, most of which are two. You have to focus on the foreign policy objective, and then handle the federal policing system and the federal intelligence, and you have to also focus on the macroeconomics policies of the country. But all other internal things, internal governance issues, supposed to completely be decentralized. And that is why you have the local government, and that is why you have the state government. Like if you look into our policies, is completely conformable to the programs of restructuring. Now, if you look into most of the things I put on my manifestos, I am strictly focusing on the foreign intelligence, foreign policy, foreign diplomacy, trade, negotiations. Why are you focusing on because that's supposed to be extensively the responsibility of the president of a country like Nigeria. What you need to do is to power the local areas, the states and the local governments with the right policy so that they can be economically productive and contribute to the making of the center. That is actually how countries should run. Almost all countries that run democracies like that. In fact, including China, that practices the Politburo communist capitalist system, they still have this kind of setting. So this is actually what naturally is supposed to take place in a country like Nigeria. So what we intend to do to make sure this works is to look into the reform is not even just starting from restructuring. You need to look into the civil service restructuring. And I heard you are talking about power sector problems. I don't understand why we have the Ministry of Petroleum away from the Ministry of Power. All these two guys are actually giving energy. I don't even understand why they should be at the point of ministry. They should just be Energy Commission of Nigeria. That's actually one of the things we are proposing. Because energy, what petroleum sector is doing is giving energy. And also what power sector is trying to do is to give energy. And we have a complete symbiotic relationship between these two entities. Why are they separated? Now, we plan to completely privatize NNPC. You know, we don't believe it should be a very big cash cow.
But you know how privatization has worked in this country.
No. The problem is you privatize without checking the competency, the capacity to deliver of those entities. Most of the privatization that happen has to do with political scoring. No, let me settle you because you were part of my political contributions, and that is why we fail. Now, if I said we are going to list NNPC in global stock exchange markets, like New York Stock Exchange, like maybe Shanghai Stock Exchange, because I know that China have about 3.5 trillion US dollars into their reserve that are looking forward to investment. I want these dollars to flow in. I need $1.5 trillion to power Nigeria's infrastructure deficit. And I know that with NNPC privatized and listed on global stock exchange, I'm going to get a lot of this money to be able to power my infrastructure plans, to be able to bridge my supply lines by dredging River Niger and River Benue, by making sure we take complete control of the Gulf of Guinea appropriately, by also making sure that we come back to industrialization, our farm-to-factory policies, by making sure that we extend our port facilities from Porcados to Ibanga to Calabar South down to Badagry, making sure that it's stable and is allowing inflow of goods and services coming in, by making sure that our waterways can be able to convey goods from Lagos, from all the port facilities to the hinterlands, making a port facility in Kogi, that's Lokoja, another port facility in Zungeru, another port facility in Dadinkowa, another port facility in Benue, in Numan, Adamawa State. So all these areas are potential port facilities. So you need a lot of money to be able to do that. Now, you can't be able to cage NNPC the way it is and just be getting very, very small amount of money because you think small, and then we now suffer, the majority of the people suffer. Now, on discussion on the economy, my good friend there talked about the economic diversification. Actually, when you look at Nigerian economy, you find out that 86% of Nigerian economy is coming from non-oil sector. You understand? Only 14% is coming from the oil sector. But the trouble is 95% of our forex comes through oil. Now, what measures countries' productivity is your capacity to open your economy to the inflow of United States dollar. US dollar is actually what measures your productivity. It's like your barometer. That's actually how you know whether you are growing or not. Now, what we have is that we diversify economy, but mostly is running within Naira and confusion and whatever you need to buy, especially that Nigeria is a rapidly consuming nation, importing almost, as at 2014, 351 billion US dollars worth of consumer goods. That's a very large country, right, that we consume more. So what we need to do is to diversify, to industrialize, to make sure that people get back to job so that they can have opportunity to be able to produce. Now, you turn the consumption into production, then you create policies that is going to enable all the areas, economic unit to be functioning.
And what time frame are you looking at achieving all of this?
Yes, actually, our policy proposal is a 2019-2035 plan. Now, what I intend to do if I win the presidency, I will struggle hard to make sure I do 8 years. Now, if I become an 8-year president, throughout this process, our target is to make sure we put a policy framework in place to groom the next leaders.
In the short term, you need to look at the short term as well as the long term.
As the long-term plan. Now, there are 2 short-term plans, right, or 3, I can say. One, we want to make sure that we grant independence to CBN, so that no politician has control over that area. Then you now put NNPC on that private and listed stock market so that when the money comes, your CBN governor will have one target. I want my inflation to come back to 6%. We have what we call Project Orion. It's anchored around 6 and 6 and 6. The 6% GDP growth, we need that. We need 6% inflation drop. We also need 6% interest rate. So that is exactly what it is. So your target as a CBN governor, give me 6% inflation, and that's what I need. Therefore, this is why you are independent. And we even plan to relocate CBN from the central political center in Abuja back to Lagos, because this is actually where business activity is happening. So these are the things we are looking at. Then we need to go back to power sector. We have 2 billion tons of coal sitting in Nigeria. We know that, of course, now there is evolution about green energy, and therefore we need to go back to natural energy sources. Until the global community is ready to assist us in trying to get the right energy supply, I intend to leverage on whatever we have in the country to make sure we have the energy that we need. Right. So we need coal. We also have gas to pipeline. Surprisingly, Nigerian government is even giving gas to to other countries, including Morocco now. They will power their industrialization with our gas instead of us using it to power industrialization. So we leverage on gas, we leverage on solar, we leverage on wind. We now continue with the small energy sources that we get from the hydro, which is mostly outdated. So these are the things we need to do because we have to generate 50,000 megawatts to power Nigeria's economic productivity. If you don't have 50,000 megawatts based on our metrics, you will be failing. And our target within the next five years, we should have that if we really put the right economic framework in place.
Okay, now, while he said, spoke, there was a point, it seemed you wanted to make, pass a comment to what he was saying.
Okay, let me just take it up from this power problem. I think for us to get a very stable power supply, there's a lot of work to do on the distribution channels. The bulk of the problem we're facing right now is not even the generation. If we generate up to 10,000 megawatts right now, we cannot distribute more than 5,000 megawatts. So first, we need to invest in the distribution channel. There must be a way that we must go back to the drawing board because every government has been evasive on this. We can keep building the power plants, all part of Nigeria, and we complete them. But the problem is that we cannot distribute. The channels have been so old, the equipment, most of them are obsolete. So that is the aspect that the power reform did not really succeed much. And for any government coming in 2019, I can tell you, for us to get to that level, we need to work for the first 2 years. We cannot guarantee a 10,000 or 20,000 megawatts in 6 months. Because when you take over, you still have to review the contract, the agreement that brought in the GenCos and the DISCOs.
You can't revoke it all of a sudden?
Yes, because you know the implication. Nigeria right now is owing close to 11 trillion naira due to contracts that we have revoked in the past 10 years. Arbitrarily revoked. So we need to learn better. So some of these deals, they're unfortunate that some leaders led Nigeria to this crisis. But you can't just revoke some of them. So you have to work around reviving the sector. You bring all the stakeholders to the round table. We go back to the drawing board. And within 2 years, we must be able to find solution to the distribution problem. Right. Because without solving the distribution problem, we keep generating, we can generate 50,000, it will not reach the homes.
All right, now let's quickly go on this break. And when we return, the discussion continues. Stay with us. You're still watching Standpoint, and we're still looking at 2019, the push for a new generation. Now, Nigeria has the ingredient for both success and failure. And what is certain today is that everything needs to be fixed. Power, the economy, name it. But if our leaders, the next crop of leaders are ready for service to the nation, are they ready to ensure that there won't be serving special interests, as we have seen? Because you mentioned like that issue, the issue of power was hijacked. We talked about that, and it didn't get to the right persons or the right people that could ensure that it worked properly as it should. Now, when this new crop of leaders, which you are part of, when you come up, are you certain that you can ensure that it is service to the nation and not service to serve certain special interests?
Well, first to say, I think leadership is not by age.
Definitely.
Leadership is greatly by wisdom. And what we are bringing in my own self, is a great seal backed by wisdom. as a president, you'll be presented with all the reports. Just look at the power sector. If I become the president in 2019, I'll definitely receive all the reports. I'll look at all the facts. But the truth is this. There are landmines planted everywhere that you must encounter. How you deal with these landmines is what will determine your success as a president. There are situations that will get you mad and angry when you see some books. There are certain things you get to know when you become president. Yeah, you feel like some individual did this to the country, but to some extent, wisdom must prevail. It's not as how much as we're angry that we are going to undo most of the issues confronting the country. There's a great deal of wisdom that will resolve most of these issues, and the national interest will still be prevalent. For example, ordinarily, look at the Fulani Edme. Let me say Edme crisis, because most of the Edme are actually not the Fulani people. So, Edme crisis. The tendency is there that you can have a new president in 2019 that may perhaps look at all the reports and all the issues and perhaps want to implement some of the recommendations on ranching and grazing and all of you that will bring peace. But in the process of implementing these recommendations, of which you have goodwill and good intention, there are interests that you must also consider. Herdsmen is a business, has been on for years. Now, irrespective of the excesses of some individual involved in this business, you cannot also condemn the whole business. They contribute a quota to the economy. Now, in the ultimate sense, is the job of the president to see into the future, provide a peaceful and lasting solution to crisis, not to take side. In this crisis, there are about 3, 4, 5 sides. Indigenous side, settler side, Edme side, political side, religious side. For us to move on, we need a president that will bring everybody together, all interests.
Yeah, because
without putting anyone above another.
Because justice is key.
Yes, and that is what has been lacking. We need that spirit of justice. Don't cheat any of the sides in this crisis. Bring them all together, and then let's start looking at the future. The future is modernized ranching, as is practiced in the West and in the advanced democracies. Most of these cows are not meant to be roaming about. They even do the service to them, stressing them up and down. So we need to invest. We need to enlighten the people first and invest in modernized ranching, that we can create this ranching in different aspects of the country. And you know, also locating the ranches, there are some parts of the country that are already agitated that they don't want ranching to be. That
was where I was going to.
So that is why the issue is not...
how do you ensure that you bring everybody to a level playing field?
So the bottom line is this.
That's it.
Justice, equality, and fairness must be given to everybody involved in this crisis. Now, some of these people that are aggressive, that their cows are killed and they retaliate, when the business is transformed for them by government with new technology and advanced ranching system, we'll be taking them off the road, off the streets. They don't need to encroach into all these farms. We have some of the states that are willing to start with,
all right,
especially in the north. There are some of the states that had vibrant ranching system, now they are reviving them. So it's also important that government must invest in the ranching. Because ultimately, the future is that we must outgrow this old system where people go from one place, move their cows up and down. And above all,
we need to move forward now. We need to quickly move forward. Now, there is a theory that this new zest for politics amongst young Nigerians is inspired by the Macron and Trudeau effect. But then our political reality is quite different from that in France and Canada. Is Nigeria really ready for a young president? Do you see the electorates going to the polls to vote for a new order? Is Nigeria really ready for a new president, a young president rather?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our democracy now in the Fourth Republic has lived for almost 20 years. The people that are born in 1999 are voting in 2019 election. So naturally, Nigeria is fully ready. That means I am ready to give birth to new president. That means I was born in 1999, and by 2019, I am ready to give birth to new president in my country. So it is a natural evolution. That's why some people will say maybe our ideas is revolutionary. It's actually evolutionary. It is a natural evolution that there must be transfer, or there is supposed to be transfer of responsibility. I don't see it as power. I see it as a responsibility for the future generations of this country. And I believe the current crop of leaders too, the people that are leading us currently, they care about the future, they care about their children, their great-grandchildren. They cannot provide that future. And we have young people, in people like me, Adamu Garba, who is fully ready
how do you
to
mean
deliver
they
that
cannot
future.
provide that future?
Yes, because the policies, the program, the strategic direction they have taken so far from 1999 till now has not really put us in the position on the path to progress. It has made even the whole world start looking at Nigeria as a failed state. Now, if you look at on all the metrics, completely, we are failing. Today, Nigeria is investing less than 10% of its GDP in its budget. And about 72% of the money of these budgets goes to the civil servants' entitlement and emolument.
If you could just hold a thought, we have Adebayo calling from Canada on the line. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, rather. Yeah. Please, it's a good thing to have the new generation leaders in Nigeria. But can I ask the two gentlemen, the aspiring two gentlemen, a question? Whoever want to leave Nigeria right now, can these two gentlemen die for Nigeria? Are they prepared to die for Nigeria?
Is that your question?
All right, Adebayo, are you done? Okay, I guess the line went, we lost that connection, but he's asking, I'm sure he's watching right now.
Yes.
So, and I'm
asking,
sure he wants to.
Are you ready to
die for Nigeria?
Of course, for somebody to even me and Mr. Daniel Akilami, I'm sure you know the kind of boldness it takes for somebody to say he wants to be the president. Somebody can just take you out, when you go out now, simply because you are trying to block certain interests. So, but you have to do it. It is the responsibility that we have to deliver. We can't live in a nation where utter confusion and hopelessness is making people to be wasting their lives. Now, most of the Nigerian population are even termed as expendable. Some the young minds are becoming drunk, they are addicts, stealing everywhere, confusion, killings everywhere in the country. When children are being born, they don't have hope. Today in Nigeria is the worst place in the whole world to give birth to a child. I had a daughter just last month ago. So that means, should I live in a country like that for her? It's not possible. We can all together live in this country. I started my life from almost ground zero. I was an Almajiri boy, grew up through the ranks to be what I am today. When I go back to my locality, sometimes I feel like, do we really have representation here? Simply because almost since the time I knew those areas, they are still like that. And most of the people too. Nobody really moves forward. This is a country that is yearning for the future. This is the country that is trying to move forward. This is the country that is blessed with almost everything, else the people are living in poverty. Now, it's a very serious problem that we have more than 100 million Nigerians living below $2 a day. That a barrel of crude oil today in Nigeria is more than the life of 35 Nigerians. And that is why you see politicians only care about how much dollars come in. Now, to through the crude oil, not really the life of Nigerians. This is a very serious problem. And it's not about me, Daniel Akinlami, and all the contestants of the president in this dispensation. It is about all of us. It's something we have to collectively rise up together and do something about this country. If we don't do something about it, what we are witnessing, watching online is going to consume us, because it happens in so many countries. Right. Yemen was not supposed to be like that. Now it is what it is. Syria wasn't supposed to be like that. If you ask Bashar al-Assad of Syria 15 years back, will his country be like that? He will tell you never, ever. But now Syria is shattered. Now we've seen what is happening in Democratic Republic of the Congo. And then we are sitting down, blaming people, telling them they are them, we are we. No, we need a country that is us. And that is the kind of leadership we are trying to provide for Nigerians.
All right, we have Taufik on the line calling from Osun State. Go ahead with your contribution, Taufik.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Please, what I need to get to vote is that there's something we need to understand. We, the youth of Nigeria, were clamoring for power. I think we have a stage to start from. What are the stages? Let's try the individual stage. Let's dominate the House. The state governor, let's start from it. You can't just start from first. You're talking about the France. France, they have a system in place already. We don't have a system. Let's go back with the youth, start from our locality. The local government, let's handle it. We come to the state assembly, let's handle it. The state government, let's handle it. Then from there, we can talk about the national level. We're all defeating ourselves. Please. Okay, you are talking about your contest for the presidency. I don't know you in Osun State today. I don't know who you are. How do you get it right? Let's start from our state. From there, we build up. Then we can come to national level. That's how we can conquer the place. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Taufik.
Yes, based on what he said, you know, so many people don't understand the Nigerian system. We are coming from a military hangover where power concentration is almost 80 to 82% sitting at the center. If you become the chairman of the local government, you wait for Abuja. If you become the governor of your state, you still wait for Abuja. If you don't go from the top and attack this system and fix it from there, you are only lying to yourself. You also go share the share of your pie. You can just pick the copy of your pie and go back. You cannot restrict yourself from sending your commissioner of finance.
Where you are, even
there
as you grow.
No, you know, let me tell you what makes changes. What makes changes is how you produce within the locality and then be able to turn it around. Not you sit down, somebody send you some money that you don't work for, and then you share. That is exactly the current system. So until we decentralize, until we create robust policies and reform program like we propose in our structural reform program, you cannot be able to unbundle the system. If you check the power matrix of Nigeria on the global risk map, 82% is concentrated at the presidency. Okay. Today, the president, if I become the president, I'm wearing this glass, I'm telling you the glass will be all over. That's how we are. That's how we grow. So we need the center before you can fix the country. If you become the governor, you also come to your center and collect the share of your pie. And this is what we need to get away from.
All right, quickly.
Okay, let me
you want to respond to that question?
Yes, I think, yeah, a lot of people have been saying this. Why can't these people go for House of Assembly, State Assembly, House of Reps, Senate? All of us cannot go to that direction. There are people already running for State Assembly right now. Young people. There are young people going to House of Rep, and there are young people going to Senate. Then there are also some of us that have ideas about how to liberate the center. We have the passion, we have the zeal, and we have the policies that can turn the center around. So it's all inclusive. It's not until young people start moving from the cadre of councillorship to chairmanship and going around before we can say they are now groomed for
me, stemming from his question, it seems, can we trust you to really liberate the country? Can we trust you enough with our vote?
I think where we are right now, we're in the process. People need to listen to the candidates, the aspirants.
Nigerians have had a lot. We must agree with
See what they are talking about. Look at their policies and manifesto. Election is about looking for the best candidates and putting him into power. So between now and September ending, the party primaries will start happening. From August 18, so October 7, the primaries will start happening. And all that people need to watch out for these candidates, especially the younger candidates, what are they bringing on the table? The primaries will even show and present all that the younger people can handle long before the campaign will start on November 18. So there's enough time for people to keep checking us out, see who are serious, who are determined, what they are bringing on board. And to the first caller, what I can say is that for many of us coming out to run, it takes us a great deal to decide to do this because it's a very risky thing within the Nigeria political space. And not just that we are ready to die, we're already dying for it in Nigeria. The moment we step out, we announce we are running for presidency. We've been facing several threats and challenges. Forget about most of these candidates are young. They are facing the same kind of threats the established candidates like Atiku are facing.
All right, quickly, we have a caller on the line. If you could just hold the thought. We have Naziz from Bauchi. Are you there?
Yeah, hello. Very good afternoon to you guys.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Go ahead with your contribution.
You guys are doing a very good job, especially the gentleman there. But, you know, in Nigeria today, every politician has an extraordinary story to tell. I believe the people don't want to hear that. They want to work on the track record. You know? Do you have a corruption, you know, case? You know? How did you serve your people? Have you held an organization before? You understand? So Nigeria today is like a ship facing a thunderstorm. We need a highly experienced sailor, and on top of that, luck and God's intervention for smooth sailing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. It's the place of experience. We cannot throw that away.
Obviously, a lot of people have been asking us, what have you been doing? What have you been involved in? But what I can assure you, where we are today, it depends on the kind of experience you're talking about. I, as a person, I don't have any experience in corruption. I don't have any experience in stealing.
Of course, not experiencing in corruption and stealing.
I have experience on the street, fighting for an egalitarian society, fighting for a country that works. I've been there in the past 12 years, been involved in several processes, procedures, even agitation. But beyond that, what we are bringing to the table, right now, at this point, Nigeria is at the turning point. We need vibrant people, young minds that are creative, that can turn things around, that are savvy, street savvy and political savvy. Now, the same people they are talking about that have the experience, that have moved from PDP to APC, back to PDP, from AGA to everywhere, what have they offered this country? Than stealing and looting. Now, we need a new breed. The paradigm shift, the new set of thinking, the people that will consider the nation above every other thing, even above their own ethnic group. That is what we need now. And Nigeria is at that turning point. That what you are bringing, the values, the policies, the manifesto, the ideas you are going to execute should speak for you now.
All right, quickly. Because
yes, my response to him is that it's very good for us to check track records. I so very believe in that. Because if you check my life history, I told you I started from Almajiri earlier, moved to public primary school, public secondary school, public university, get rusticated along the path, came back to Lagos, started work in different places, then set up a business from ground zero. Despite the fact that I'm coming from the northern part of Nigeria, I didn't go to set my business in Abuja. I set it up in Lagos. And I pursue private practice all through the life of my business from 2008 when it started to almost now 10 years. I've been doing only private contract, and I was able to build a company, IPI Solution Nigeria Limited, that is one of the biggest cloud service provider in sub-Saharan Africa. We are servicing 39 African countries today. We have about 45 employees now with offices in Lagos and Abuja, and we have earned up to 13 international recognitions. In fact, this year alone, which I'm not even including in it, we have about 7 more. So that means we have grown, building consistent capacity and discipline to be able to show that Nigeria can work. In fact, I always say that, I had only 1 government contract that came in 2017. So throughout the history of the company was purely private organization that build greater capacity in the young people. And as 36 years old, I am the oldest member of IPI Solutions. So you see,
won you to believe that you can handle
actually,
Nigeria.
because I spent 12 years of my life studying how to fix Nigeria. The manifestos we drop on www.adamugarba.org is actually a 12-year plan manifesto in how to transit Nigeria away from poverty and transform it to be one of the greatest nations in the world by 2035. And my target is by 2045, when the new world order is going to be designed, Nigeria will be on the table to be part of the Ps. Now we have P5, right? Nigeria will be part of the P next. That's my target.
I must thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Thank you so much, Dr. Akinlami, and thank you so much, Adamu Garba, for your thoughts. Well, that's our package for today. You can watch the repeat broadcast tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'm Veronica Danik-Boy. Enjoy your weekend.